When they are consuming your minds and your thoughts and your dreams, from the angels to the demons and to the mysteries unseen, there is no need to worry. There is no need for dread. It's just time to discuss the thing at the foot of the bed.
Good evening, and if you're just tuning in, you are listening live to UFO Paranormal Radio Network, otherwise known as United Public Radio Network, or even easier, UPRN, to the thing at the foot of the bed. I am one of your hosts. I'm an amazing co-host to the right of me here on the screen. We should be known as the host with the hair, I think. But anyways, I am Lorilei Potvin. I'm a Canadian clairvoyant medium. Hey, Zach, nice to see you. Canadian clairvoyant medium, crystal Reiki energy healer, Akashic Records practitioner, spiritual teacher and mentor, and registered nurse. I am also a host of my own show here on this network, Monday nights from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, the Angel Rock. Yes, please let me remember the name. Anyways, we're glad that you're here. If you want to join in the show, and you're going to see, like we see Zach's comments, please head over to UFO Paranormal Radio, either on Facebook or YouTube. We will be able to see your comments. I can't. Oh, it's backwards.
I was trying to say hi to Zach without interrupting you.
David's eager to get in here. I'll talk as quick as I can. So yeah, head over to one of those places on YouTube or Facebook. But if you are on Facebook, you've never been on to our show, please head to StreamYard.com/Facebook first and give StreamYard permission to use your picture and name. Otherwise, you come up as Facebook user and we have no idea who you are. And we want to know who you are because you guys make our show. One last thing very quickly. Well, two things. First of all, we are on Roku. This show isn't yet. We're talking about it, but our network has a channel. There's some great shows over there. We are always having new hosts coming onto the network. There's something for everybody. So if you like what you see, please share, subscribe, tell your friends about it, let everybody know about it because we have some important things coming up. That's the next thing I have to say. But anyways, you're going to head over to Roku because there are some of the great shows on the Roku channel. Hey, Robin. And what you're going to do is go to the channel store. You're going to look up UFO space P as in Peter. And there's going to be a list. You're going to click the one, I think it's third or fourth down. It says UFO space Paranormal and United Public Radio. That is our Roku channel. So you can watch it on TV as well. Lastly, I found out about this Monday night on my show on the Angel Rock, the owner of the network, Joe Montaldo, who has a great show on Wednesday nights, UFO Undercover. He does the Centralist in a panel Friday nights. Him and the amazing Michelle DeRoche do a show about the paranormal. Of course, my mind went completely blank, but it is on Saturdays. You can check that out together. Anyways, we are involved with Writers of the Future. They do have a show on here. They have awards every year. It's huge. It's in Los Angeles. There's a bunch of Hollywood stars and what. Joe came on to announce that the network is going to be sending one lucky listener, all expenses paid, to that particular little shindig. So you don't want to miss that. There will be more details coming as time moves forward. We still got a few months for that. So keep that in mind. Also, we have the podcast, People's Choice Podcast Awards coming up. You want to watch for that, please. We need your votes. We do get some of our shows in there, but they never seem to make it right to the finals. There's many levels. So we need your help. We need you to vote. We'll let you know more about that as that comes closer to the date as well. On to my wonderful co-host. He's been so patient. There you go, David Hanzel.
That's okay. You know what? I was rocking out to Rob Zombie in my head.
Oh, right on. Mm-hmm.
I love Rob Zombie. And
like
the song just popped up all of a sudden. I don't know why, but maybe we'll find out. I got to remember the name of the song all of a sudden. But usually when something like that happens, there's a reason behind it.
I know why.
Yeah, it could be.
Your new piece of furniture we can talk about, but go ahead. Tell them who you are, Dave. Tell them all about you.
Well, I'm David Hanzel. I am a spiritual medium. In short, basically means I connect to all spirit. I connect to the positive side most of the time. I do know the negative side, of course, when I need to. I do channeling, oracle card readings, but I don't do oracle card readings that much, only pretty much live or in person or when I'm pulling a card on here. I am a paranormal investigator, although I haven't, since COVID, been able to investigate anywhere, which is very sad. And that is about it. And
TikTok. You got to tell them about TikTok.
on my TikTok,
Yeah, and your mystics too.
oh yeah, well I was gonna tell us wait till the end, but if you guys also want to know a lot about the afterlife, I have a whole TikTok channel that is pretty much all about near-death experiences. What happens? Well, what happens to me, because what happens to you may vary. But that's on TikTok under at Medium David Hanzel, and then I have another podcast called Mystic Stew, which I only make a couple like every couple weeks, but they're short form. So I just answer quick questions. And sometimes I answer questions from TikTok that I can't answer on TikTok because TikTok would shut me off. But I can do it on my own podcast. I can do whatever.
You can do whatever. That's right.
Yeah.
But, okay.
We have a couple things to talk about tonight, but I think the furniture and the animals, I guess.
Okay,
and
so Rob Zombie. Well, you were talking about that.
Yeah, it's that song. Dun 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 dun. I can't remember the name of the song.
I remember it.
It's not Living Dead Girl. It's not.
I love that song, Living Dead Girl.
Oh, I love Living Dead Girl too. That's one of my favorites.
David and I love the same music. Sometimes we find because we don't get a chance to talk, we just send each other.
It's that highway song. It's about a highway. Because you hear a cop in the song, he says, "Do you want to try me?" That's in it. You hear the cop whistle, and then the woman says, "Do you want to try me?" That song, there's a reason behind it, and then I'll figure out what it is because it popped into my head while you were talking.
Okay, so what I got, so like I said, David and I we're so busy, we don't always get a chance to talk. So we talked yesterday, talked today, but we always send each other hilarious memes and what have you. So one of the topics we thought we'd start with is a really touching, I think, TikTok that you did, but Dave showed me this awesome chaise lounge that he got. And he didn't tell me that it was new or anything. He just showed me it kind of bare, and then he really glammed it up. I thought it looked amazing after it was done. And while he was filming it, before he put anything on it, I went, holy crap, that looks like an orb, after we talked about orbs last week. And then I hear Dave say, holy crap, I think those are orbs. Yeah, those are orbs. But then after, when he put a few things onto the couch, then we figured it might be dust. But as soon as I saw it, I went, that's got to be new. Like I was feeling like there's other energy, like it was quite old, but it was new to your house. Maybe somebody that was connected to the chaise lounge was a Rob Zombie fan. Like when you were talking about it, I don't know. Hi, Sandra.
It's an old, the song is Thunder Kiss 65.
There you go.
I don't know what that song means. I've never listened to the lyrics. I'll have to watch the lyrics because it's odd that came up into my head. But I do love Rob Zombie, but I haven't really thought about Rob Zombie in a long time. So yeah, I did get this chaise lounge, and it's a very old. I don't know how old it was. When I first sat on it, I didn't get anything negative from it. So I was like, me and Lorilei, we discussed this. We're the same way. I don't like new stuff. I like antiques. I like thrift stores. I love stuff like that in my house. And Lorilei had asked me, had I saged or did anything to it? And I said, no, I didn't. And she said, I don't do that either. We don't do that.
I said, I bet you didn't, is when I said, I bet you didn't. Yeah. And that's when I said, I don't do that either. Let's just see what comes with it.
Mm-hmm. We've been doing this stuff long enough. If something feels negative, I'll know it right off the bat. But I brought it into my house. And this is the weird thing. Before I brought it, the lady who sold it to me said, let me steam clean it for you because it's been sitting for so long in this, like, what are those called? A storage place. Right. And I said, sure, no problem. And I picked it up late. So it's clean. I mean, that thing's clean. There's no dust on it or nothing. It's clean. I put it in my house, and today I had bought a new cover for it. It's like a bohemian throw. That was new. So that's probably where you sense the new from. But when I took a picture for one of my friends, because she wanted to see the couch, I took a picture of it before I decorated it up. And when I took the picture, there's like orbs started. Well, they looked like orbs. And I'm like a master debunker. I'm always trying to debunk stuff. I'm the most skeptical medium you'll ever meet in your life. It keeps us honest.
I think we need to debunk.
Yeah. But I took that film and they were flying out and there's only a couple of them. When I put on now, then I shut off my camera. I put on the new the throw over and I put my big pillows on it. And then I did another video. When I did the other video, there was tons of orbs everywhere. So that's where I said, that's got to be dust from taking something out of the package or something. But it was odd. And the only thing I don't know, it's hard for me to tell in my house. And Lorilei can attest to this. There's so much in my house all the time. Having an energy other than mine is just expected. It just doesn't bother me. It's just there. But there were some of those were lighting up without my flash on, and that's where I thought it's orb. The ones where
I noticed it before you said it in the first
yeah,
video.
they were big.
But I think, see, that's the interesting thing, right? And that's where you get into things that are haunted, and you'll see things like that. They really play it up, it seems, depending on what TV show it is. But energy can be attached to anything. It really can.
Oh, yeah.
Right? So I didn't sense anything negative, but I asked you if it was new. And I said, well, actually, it doesn't feel new feeling into it. But the one thing I mentioned, it's kind of segueing into what we thought we'd talk about, because I thought it was such a touching TikTok that you did. And it was your kitten Angel. And he has to lock Angel up because Angel goes on top of everything now. But I said, out of all your fur babies, that I think Angel has this real affinity I keep feeling for, like, energy when it comes to spirit. And the interesting thing in the second video, that, like, Carmel was there, but his other cat, but Angel jumped right on there, and it's a he, right?
Yeah.
I thought so. I wanted to say he, but he was sitting there, and he was kind of like, you could see he wasn't filmed for long, but he was kind of like looking all over, and I think he senses something with it as well. What's your thoughts, Dave?
Yeah, that cat does. He's a lot like Carmel. It's the other two aren't like that, but Carmel and Angel, when I do anything that involves spirit in this room that I'm in right now, they scratch at the door. They do whatever they can to come in here. And Angel gets really lovey-dovey when she comes in and there's spirit around. So
Carmel's zen, though, right? Like, Carmel was close by, but very zen, it seemed, at that moment.
Yeah, Carmel went to explore the new runner that I put down.
Okay.
So he was sitting there because that was brand new out of a store. So Carmel doesn't like to go near my thrifty objects. He doesn't like it. So it might be that he picks up really strong things. The one thing I did pick up, though, from that chase is I did have a feeling that it came out of New York.
Interesting. As soon as you said New York, you know what I got a vision of?
Huh.
Something to do with the flappers in Broadway when you said New York in the 30s.
See, yes, I don't know how old that chase is, but the pattern on it is pre-80s. I know it's pre-80s.
Oh, and pre-70s, I think, from looking at it.
Yeah, so I'm not quite sure. But it is quite interesting. And having, 4 cats in my house, and and if anybody doesn't know, Lorilei has animals too. The more animals you have, I mean, they sense stuff around your house quite a bit. They know what's going on. Sometimes I want to ask my cats, who is that in the corner? Because I can't see them. You can. You're pissing
my
me.
dog, whenever there's something, well, you've seen her, you guys, if you've watched the podcast for a while, my dog Pop, she's sitting right here at my feet right now behaving, I hope. But as soon as Spirit's around, or like if we can't forget to do our reading, we got so engrossed in our conversation last week. So we said we would pick 2 people this week because we realized at the end of the show, she'll hop up here right away. I want to read Zach's comment. He says, if you ever come out here,
a comment to Zach's comment.
Oh, okay. If you ever come to Arizona, David, I'll take you to some of the best antique shops here in the state. I found some awesome stuff, including old cigars in the original boxes. LOL. What were you going to say, Dave? Hi, Joanna.
This, Lorilei, I kid you not, Zach, man. When I was younger, when I went to garage sales and stuff, I'm old, so we had what was called garage sales.
Okay, you're old. I'm the same age.
Tomorrow I'll be old. Tomorrow's my birthday. Will we be the same age when it's my birthday?
I will be 58 in August. I'm probably older than you.
And I'll be 42. Okay, so
yeah, right, you will. I'll be
I'll be
29.
the same age. But I used to go to garage sales, and when I was a kid, if I had that nickel or that couple pennies, I bought the old cigar box on the table. The reason is I noticed even as a kid, the cigar box, like I got right from the store, because we like to get boxes. I'm still, if you look around my house, I have a billion boxes everywhere. I am addicted to them. I don't know why. I haven't figured it out yet. And none of these dudes are telling me nothing. But I bought the ones from the garage sales because they were in somebody else's hands, and I could sit there when I was a kid and put my hands around them, close my eyes, and then it's like a movie started playing. And sometimes it wasn't a very interesting movie. Sometimes it was just really pictures of houses, pictures of people, pictures of I had seen back seats of cars when I've held certain cigar boxes, which means that most likely it was in the back seat of a car. But yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, if I'm ever in Arizona, I'll totally go thrift shopping with you.
What I remember that because my uncle that lived 3 doors away, my dad was one of 17 children. So him and his brother were pretty close in age. My uncle used to love to smoke cigars. My dad would once in a while. And there was always cigar boxes. And my aunt, Dell, and my partner Dell, have the same aunt and uncle through marriage. And I grew up from the age of 8 till God, I left home 3 doors away from them. But my uncle loved to smoke cigars, and there was always cigar boxes because his wife, my aunt, would. She was from the Ukraine, her relatives, and she'd have her old grandmother here. And I remember being in the house, going in the basement, and there was all these old clothes and cigar boxes. There's just something so magical about them, isn't there? Like, I don't know what it is. Like when you open them.
Boxes, I love boxes, and cigar boxes are very cool. I've had some that people would say, why don't you do some kind of craft thing to it? I'm like, no, don't touch it. I need it in its original state, you know. But you're a
What you
collector.
keep making me think of, I have a mold because I'm a resin addict, as most people, if you know me, you've heard me talk about it. And I have a mold that looks like a box, a book. And when you take the lid off, it's a whole box inside. So it's just been getting complicated with what do I put on top. Like I'm trying one right now with a dragon, really cool dragon. It's all like a twisty dragon mold. So it'll look like a book though. Like you could put it on your shelf, make it look like a book. Like the outside looks like a binding. Go ahead, Dave.
I don't know if you can see it. I have an owl book.
Oh, do you?
You guys, I'm wearing my pajamas.
Good for you, Dave. Too hot to wear jammies today, so I didn't put any on. Almost melted last week.
I'm going to tell you guys what Lorilei is talking about. Now, of course.
So you got an owl one. Well, this one you can do. And I got a mold. I was thinking of you today, Dave, and I was trying it. And it was supposed to be clear. And it had, so I put it in something called an air pump. Oh, nice.
Talking about it. Looks like a book, but when you open it up,
it's a box.
It's a box.
Yeah, I have a couple up there that have skulls and stuff on them. This one's like resin, though. It's really heavy. Oh, but today I was thinking of Dave when I did this, and I thought, I don't want any bubbles in it. I'm going to put it in my vacuum pump, it's called, right? And it's still going along with our topic because we're going to start out with animals today. But I was thinking of you, Dave, and I thought, oh, this will be so cute when I send them because I'm making Dave and I matching shirts. I was looking for a hoodie. I still haven't given up a black, just plain hoodie for us for wintertime. But I think I'm just going to make the shirts for us. If you guys like them, maybe it's something we can look into.
We toyed with the idea of making some coffee mugs with our logo on it, and we might have a little Etsy store or something at some point, or a store you can get our t-shirts or mugs or anything.
Because I have a new machine and a t-shirt pump. I have a press, a whole bunch of stuff. Anyways, this mold, I'd never seen it before. I've seen this thing always. I wanted one. It's like a cup, but inside is a cat paw. So I got the mold. So I started doing it, making it. I finished it in the pump about 40 minutes ago. What did it do? It did something. It had a chemical reaction. It's called a flash cure. So it heats up to about 500 degrees and it just freezes. It freeze forms like with all the bubbles. So it didn't work. So I'll have to try another one. Oh, hi, Julie's mom. Hi, Chris. How are you? So nice to meet you. They're over in the UK, by the way. Let us know where you guys are from. And if you are just tuning in, you're listening live to Almost Set the Angel Rock the Thing at the Foot of the Bed. I'm one of your co-hosts, Lorilei Potvin. My good friend David Hanzel is our other co-host. So we were talking, Dave, you did this great TikTok, and I thought and you guys, we're going to go wherever you guys want to go with the questions and the comments. And maybe you can share a little bit about it, because I agreed 100% with the TikTok that you shared with me.
Yeah, we can talk about this topic a little bit too, and we can go down the rabbit hole on it too, as far as hauntings and paranormal as well.
You're thinking, yep, paranormal.
First, I really want to address Sandra Sharp. She said boxes, that's the cat, which is so funny. I love cats, and that's true. Cats are always jumping in boxes. So maybe there's a connection there. Maybe they were getting me prepared. David, buy a bunch of boxes. You're going to have tons of cats. Oh, yeah. Okay. I guess that means I'm going to be single too. Okay. But that's okay. I'd rather have my cats than anything. But I had made a while back, I made a TikTok because I was talking about animals. That somebody asked me about animals, moving on and how we talk to animals and so on and so forth. And it was a real religious nut that came on and just straightforward says animals don't have souls and we have dominion over animals, and we go and just this really stupid rant. So I made a video correcting them. And anyway, they were a trolley church person. But I had on another one, somebody left a comment when they were talking about, it was another animal one. And she wrote down that animals do not have souls, she said she didn't want any hate for it. I don't know if it's a she.
She said that they weren't made in God's image.
Yeah, she said they weren't made in God's image, and that's why. So I had to, now I didn't go on there being mean, but ignorance needs an answer. And it's what a lot of people don't tell you. A lot of religious people always, when they always talk about God, they always say how we're in God's image. And I don't know what they're thinking. Like, we don't look like God, because God or source or whatever isn't a human being. And then I told her, in fact, you're not a human being. You're a spirit having a human experience. And animals are also spirits having an animal experience. They have souls. They will always have souls. And I said in that TikTok, and I'll say it again, I will die on that hill. Animals have souls. And the more we think about it that way, the more careful we'll be towards everything. I have nothing against people eating animals for food. Animals eat other animals for food and everything else. That's perfectly fine. We've been doing it for millions of years. And I can tell you that from talking to them, spiritually wise, most of them are well aware of it, even the wild ones. They know they have to leave here somehow, and they don't go through the pain like we would during things. It's very quick to them. They don't know pain like we do, which is cool for animals. But yeah.
No, but you had also said what was so touching was that you got into, just very quickly, that, like you said, we're not actually who we are. We are everlasting energy, if you want, souls, beings, whatever you want to call us, that we're just down in this lifetime right now having a human experience. We go on forever. And we really do. And animals do. And I really, truly believe, and I'm sure David's going to agree with me on this, that animals, I always say we don't get the animal we want, we get the animal we need. And I think that we do. I think they come here as earth angels, if you will, because anybody that's owned a pet, I'm sure will agree. You want to see an example of unconditional love? Look at your pet. And they're here to help us work on things that we're here for, right?
Exactly, and I'll add to that. That's a very good response to what to call animals, earth angels. I don't think there's really a human here that deserves that any more than any animal does. Because one, from what I know about angels and everything, just from being on the other side and talking to them since I was a kid, they're pretty straightforward. They're pretty, they love doing stuff for people, and they just love people to death, but they don't think about the physical stuff we go through. They will drag us through to get us wherever we need
We
to.
don't think about the physical stuff when we're on the other side and we decide we're going to incarnate into the next lifetime, right? And the older the soul gets, and I know I've seen people channel this, I've got this from spirit, and people have had, near-death experiences, as we call NDEs. We're up there thinking, like, because when we come down here, I believe this is one of the most difficult places to come. We come in with spiritual amnesia, most of us. We come in these dense, heavy, fragile bodies. When you listen to people that have had NDEs, I know David's had one, I believe I've had one as a toddler. Everybody's experience is different, but I've seen so many people as of late, because I've really been looking back into it. I've been studying them for anybody that hasn't heard it before for over 40 years professionally as well as personally. Forgot to mention I'm also a registered nurse when I was telling everybody what it was. Anyways, when they were explaining coming back into the body, back, say they were in heaven, or some people just stop at the gateway, if you will, whatever you want to call it, and it's not your time, and for whatever reason, right? It depends. Everybody has a different experience. But when they come back, they feel like they're being squeezed, like almost claustrophobic, because our energy is so big on the other side. So like I lost my train of thought as I'm rambling here. Anyways, I know you wanted to say something, Dave, so go ahead. I'll probably remember as you're talking.
You're absolutely correct. If anybody, every person, every NDE person that I have spoken to, besides Lorilei and myself, have all said the same thing. I mean, this body, and with animals and everything, we're a spirit on that side. So becoming into a body, it sucks. but we always.
That's where I was going with this. I'm going to stop you just for a sec. Where
Yeah,
I was
go
going
ahead.
with this is they call Earth a school.
Mhm.
And I agree that it is, because, and I heard a really beautiful channeled message. I've really been getting into a lot of channeled messages from collectives that really resonate. I've mentioned it before, Next Level Soul podcast. That's not the only place. It's just been a really good, diverse collection there. And what I've loved is, talking about that. You've heard it before, right? Especially on Earth, we live in a planet of or dimension of duality, light and dark, cold and hot, whatever, right?
Yep.
When I first started with angel cards years ago, my partner Dell, I remember saying, I only want to do angel cards. I'm only doing oracle cards because I only want to deal with the positive. And I remember what he said to me, Laura, in order for you to be doing this level of work, he said, the advice I would give you is you have to know both sides of it to know what the difference is and what it feels like and how to discern between the dark and the light. It's the same thing being, if you want to call it back home, in heaven, universe, whatever you want to look, whatever your belief system is. But we really are all one. Each one of us, from a grain of sand, we are all come from source, from God, whatever it may be, whatever your belief system is, right? So we only know the positive emotions up there. We know love, right? That's mainly what it is. So we don't experience pain or negative emotions or anything like that. So that's why we come here, to help grow and evolve our souls. I really believe this. So we come here actually, and this really resonated. It may not with some people, but it did with myself, that we actually come here to really understand what separateness is about. Because a lot of us feel very alone at various times in our lives. Whereas up there, we are a collective. My friend once described it, another friend of mine, Heidi Hollis, she's had many experiences, not even NDEs. She's not passed away, but actually been over on the other side. And she said it's like a love soup, right? You have all these ingredients with a soup and you cut it all up, right? You know what the ingredients are. Once you cook it, puree it, you can't separate it. It's all melded together, right? So we know what togetherness is. And it was a really interesting way of looking at it. Am I saying it's right? No, but it certainly made sense to me. But anyways, when we do pick our lifetimes, believe it or not, this is a hard thing for people to grasp. We pick our parents, we pick who our kids are going to be, who our friends are, we pretty well have a guideline for our lifetime. Wouldn't you say, Dave, and lessons we want to learn?
We pretty much do. People are here for different reasons, but we pretty much do. The animals have an easier. Now, our transition is a bit different than an animal's transition. When animals transition, I don't want to say they haven't accumulated karma, because animals usually don't have much karma at all. But when animals go back, they don't have to review anything they've done, because they've only done exactly what they were supposed to do. They have. that includes biting someone. That includes whatever they had to do. That was what they were supposed to do because it affected the life of that person. They go over a lot quicker. And that's why a lot of people, they'll refer to it as the Rainbow Bridge, which I think is very beautiful, to put it that way. Because even like the tunnel of light and everything, it's tunnel of light and Rainbow Bridge. The bridge is a lot shorter. Just boop, we're here, they're home. It's very quick. It's very quick for them. Us, it takes us, we got to go through the light. We got to go through the astral world. We got to go through all this.
I have seen people that have been talking as of late. That's why, because this host, this Alex Ferrari that hosts that podcast, I was a little disappointed in what he had said to this lady that had 3 NDEs or near-death experiences. And she shared them. And he goes, well, those aren't typical NDEs. You didn't go through the tunnel of light. You didn't do this. You didn't do that. Nonetheless, she had the experience. And I've been seeing more and more people that have said, no, I didn't go through anything. I literally blinked and I was like, there I was. Like, I didn't even know. Most people will report that though, but not always.
I didn't float above my bed and watch myself.
Yeah.
I hung out there for a bit, but I was another like that. I was over. And then I didn't even have to, they didn't even let me go in the light. They just showed it to me. It was beautiful. There's no reason for me. So it all depends on the person's experience and what they're going through.
But people always seem to come back with an extra gift or a gift that they had that they hadn't really fully unwrapped, right?
Yeah, some kind of knowledge. One of the pieces of knowledge I came back with is that animals are really quite sacred. So we should be treating them as such. But the people ask if animals have souls. If we'll get on that subject just for a minute, because I'm sure they and you guys probably were listening to that before. When you see a ghost animal isn't stuck. Well, human beings aren't really stuck either. It might be either in their. I wondered. I've asked before. Do you think? I'm sorry, guys. I have to go off the script a little bit because I want to ask Lorilei if she agrees on this or she knows. Do you think? And I don't get a definite answer, and the reason I'm asking, I kind of get a nod, like you're on the right track, Dave. Do some people contract in their soul contract to be a ghost between two worlds?
I agree, absolutely, 100%. Yes, some people can contract that to experience it because, like you said, Dave,
you have to know
never truly stuck. So I believe. So going with contracts too, because I had a hard time wrapping my mind around this, was, well, then why come here? If you picked who your parents are, who your friends are, what you're going to do, what you're going to blah, 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 then your whole life's planned out for you. Why come here? No, that's not what happens. You kind of set out, like, if you will, a few points that you're going to hit, and you can go left, you can go right, you can deviate from the plan, you can do whatever you want. You have free will here. So with that being said, and your question being asked, yes, I agree that if somebody chose, and you can choose whatever you want when you come here. Heck, you could choose a lifetime just to come here and see what it's like to have fun. Have fun your whole life. Do nothing else. And I mean, just go and have a good time, not worry about material things, not worry about bills to pay. There'll be consequences, but you're just here to have a good time.
I see it like this sometimes. If say there's a mountain and we'll call it Mount Tippy Top. Okay. So Mount Tippy Top, the tippy top of the tippy top mountain is your end goal to your life, what you wanted to accomplish. But when you show up on the bottom of the mountain. So you'll start climbing. That's life. Now, during that time, you have a few things you want to learn. Like maybe you want to learn about anger. You want to learn about loss. You want to learn about all these other things. That's in there and that's going to come. But what happens is, as you're climbing the mountain, what a lot of people do is they keep going, Am I almost there? Am I almost to Mount Tippy Top?
Just like a kid in the back of the car. Are we there yet? Are we there yet?
But the coolest people are the most, what they'll do is while they're climbing up, they'll go, ooh, there's a pretty spring over there. I'm going to walk over there and check it out. So you can deviate off that path as much as you want, and you'll get all kinds of extra lessons, knowing that eventually as you climb the mountain, you're going to get there. That's how I always tell people, don't worry about Mount Tippy Top. You're on your way. While you're on your way, enjoy the journey.
Yes, you just took the words out of my head. Enjoy the journey. So going back to your question, And what I think you almost answered it is none of us are truly stuck. None of us are. Even earthbound spirits here, those that may be negative. I mean, then we start getting into things that are from other dimensions and stuff, whatever. But I'm talking about human spirits that are here, earthbound spirits. We are never truly stuck here.
No,
All we
no.
have to do is, if we really want to leave, right? Think of somebody you love. I had a friend on, my friend Augie Noss that's been on here. We were talking about this one night, and he said, if you ever find yourself in that situation, say maybe you passed very quickly or something, you don't even realize maybe you passed, and you're in a dark space. You don't know where you are. You're scared. You're afraid. You feel you're all alone. Think of somebody you love that you know is already, as I call it, back home or crossed over already. Ask them to come and get you. You don't have to say it, just think it, because it's
That,
telepathy on the other side. They'll come.
but even
So if you contract, very quickly, if you contract this for this experience to learn something to help to grow and evolve yourself as a soul, yes, I do agree that you could very well contract to have that experience.
it's the same with paranormal researchers, ghost hunters, if you will, whatever too.
Mm-hmm.
We literally contract that into our life. They're like, you might have came in here going, I want to know what it's like to discover life from this angle, discover something, out of the ordinary from the eyes of my human self. So so we can literally contract that into our lives. If you believe in ghosts, and if you believe in demons or spirits, whatever you believe in, if you believe in that, it will eventually get to you because of the fact you have the belief. Now, there's some things like there's certain things like I have a belief in, but I just don't think about it much. So it's not in my life. But I think even like with, and I think that sometimes I think we do contract to be ghosts because that person can then go haunt a house to help somebody else's goal of seeing something that is out of the ordinary.
Yes,
Yeah,
Sandra, you were right. She says, my understanding is that we've written in these side trips and sightseeing tours as options. Well, I don't think, I agree with you, but I think that there's options, but I don't think we write those in. Where I was going with this, and I lost my train of thought, is while we're up there and we're choosing that we're going to come in for an incarnation into a certain lifetime, we just don't come here, by the way. Though this place is one of the best places to come because we do experience a lot of pain. Life is difficult. And I saw one person talking about this, and I've since seen it quite a bit, and spirits confirmed it for me, that while we're up there, right, they have a council, very wise souls that sort of oversee the person as they're choosing to make an incarnation into a lifetime. And I find it seems as the older the soul is, I mean, the more lifetimes I'll say that it's had, right? It thinks, hey, I'm going to choose alcoholic parents, and I'm going to be a drug addict, or I'm going to be homeless. And I'm like everything you could possibly think of, right? You want to pack in as much learning as you can in this incarnation. And then usually the wise soul is there off to the side, and you can disagree with me, Dave, but it makes sense to me that they're talking to the soul saying, listen, I understand you're excited about this, you really do want to pack in as much learning as possible, but you have to live that life, right? So sometimes they never tell you what to do, they just point out you got to live it.
yeah, that part is I know. I think it was, what was her name? Who's the famous medium on Montel Williams?
Oh,
Sylvia
I
Brown.
know.
Sylvia Brown had
Thank
mentioned
you.
in her book sometimes about there's a council of 9,
Mm-hmm.
and there is a council of 9. That's absolutely correct. But I know a lot of times how it is explained to me is it's not always that we pick the actual situation. Sometimes if you want to learn about loss, you might end up being born into a very rich family, which you probably knew that, but maybe you don't know that somewhere along the line, that family, it could have a change of something and they could lose all their millions, and then you have to experience loss. So sometimes we contract not always the situations, but we do. But we also contract how we want to deal with certain emotions that we aren't familiar with.
Or what about patience? I always say to people,
anger,
like, say you
patience.
pick patience for this lifetime, I can guarantee you not with 100% certainty, but you probably are not going to be put into a Buddhist Zen monkery from babyhood onward. You're probably going to be faced with, and this is how we know usually what our lessons are, because they keep showing up over and over and over until we're able to master it or achieve or learn what we're meant to learn from it. Right now, I can tell you personally, mine is boundaries. Mine right now with 100% certainty is boundaries, because it keeps coming up over and over and over and over in my lifetime. And I know exactly what's involved with it. There's a lot of healing work to unpack and look at. And I'm working on it slowly, but there is. And until I master this, which means until I feel good about what my boundaries are, and by stating that to somebody without feeling guilty, maybe you're feeling, badly about it, that it's going to keep showing up for me. So that's almost something to pay attention to, folks. If something keeps showing up over and over, because I've met so many people that say this, whether it's you keep meeting the same type of partner and it never seems to end up properly, maybe it's a characteristic about that maybe you've set out for yourself to kind of be able to manage better. I don't know. What do you think, Dave?
No, it's true. I know the first part of my life was all about temperance. The first
Mm-hmm.
part I had to go through is every lesson that could possibly be thrown at me to learn temperance. And
Mm-hmm.
trust me, it sucks. But
Yeah, it's not easy.
yeah, but after my NDE, the temperance is gone because they had told me that's no longer something you need to worry about. You're done with that. Although
Yeah,
now
once you master it,
you
and
got,
you'll know this because I actually made a post today, and I'm going to bring it up really quickly. And I didn't post it to be negative, but it came up. And there's a Canadian comedian that can be very controversial. She's a fan of the cursey words, and her name is Nicole Arbor. She did a video about a certain spiritual self-help guru out there. And she took the time, she spent almost 10 minutes, and this particular individual has stolen every single one of their isms, their memes, their writings, and she showed it. She showed it, and he has put his name on it, and he said, it's mine, it's been written by mine, I've done whatever. So I posted it, and I said, I didn't post this to be negative.
yeah.
But I'm hoping by sharing this with you that we will realize that we don't have to put people on pedestals. We are all equal. We are all the same. There's nothing wrong with being inspired by somebody that you admire, what they say, what they create, maybe what they do. But that should inspire you to look within and pull out those incredible, magnificent, amazing gifts that you have, because we all have one. There is nobody else on this planet than you, and I'm talking to you, whoever the you is that's hearing this, right? And to be careful about who we look to as leaders, because we really have the answers when we go quiet within and we quiet the mind, do some deep breathing, we want to call it meditation, whatever you want to call it. But nobody knows you better than you. And if you say, I don't know myself, there's lesson number one. Maybe get to know yourself and who you are.
Yeah, it's true. And if you guys want to know how to do this, I can tell you how right now.
They've got the secret.
100%
Yeah.
free. Okay. So the world you see outside yourself is a reflection of you. So everything you're dealing with, everything you go through, everything that there is a reflection from the self that is here, you. Okay. If you want to change any of that, all you got to change is the you, and then that will reflect. So say I want to be it's almost like the fake it till you make it, almost not for every situation, but if you want to be a millionaire, you start having gratitude for money. You start being thankful for money when you have it. You're thankful when other people receive money.
Thankful for paying a bill and spending it.
You do your hair and you look nice, and you look how you would look if you had all that money. When you do that, the universe or the reflection has to match you. It's that simple. It really is. And we don't always get exactly what we want perfect. And that's because sometimes when we came here, what we think we want isn't something that our higher self is going, no, you don't want that. Stop it. You don't want that. Remember? And then we do. And then we get into all kinds of little things. But
The hardest thing, though, I think, Dave, and another thing that I learned, and it took some time to recognize, is when we meet people that push all our buttons. that they irritate the crap out of us, that we don't like,
Yeah.
that every time you see them, you go from 0 to 30 with a few words out of their mouth. Guess what? They're mirroring something back to you to have some inner reflection about that there's probably something within ourselves, believe it or not, that is triggering us when we see these people. They're actually giving us a gift.
Yep. I think I mentioned this on a podcast before. There's something called a Haoki.
Mm-hmm.
And a Haoki is a type of empath that it tends to mirror you completely, like your worst parts. So if say you're an angry person and you encounter a Haoki, the Haoki will show you exactly what you're acting like, almost like, okay, this is you.
I've never heard that term before, so that's interesting.
They're called Hyokis, and everybody is pretty much a Hyoki in a way. I know that I'm considered a sage and a what's the word I'm looking for? It starts with a catalyst. And there's a lot of catalysts on earth right now. You know,
I'm a connector.
Yeah, Lorilei a catalyst in a way. Because of the fact
But I'm a connector too. I connect people. I knew this and I've been told it many times. Mm-hmm.
Yep. And being a sage means that I would bounce from lifetime to lifetime observing everything. I have my mission, but I sit back and observe it, and I observe it kind of knowing there's something outside of the world. And you just use that for every time you incarnate. But the catalyst thing, there's a lot of catalysts here. Catalysts are people, they start shit, whether it be good or bad. Sorry about my language. Whether it be good or bad, they start something. They might inspire you or they might make you hate them. But a catalyst is going to do whatever it needs to do in order to shake up another person's life, because that's what that other person wanted. So if another person, like if I want to be shook up, they're going to send another catalyst my way, and it might not even be somebody I know. It could be somebody I totally don't know. And they'll say he needs to learn something fast. Send that person in, or get that person's available to go in. So it's kind of interesting that way.
Isn't this crazy? We didn't mean to get all into all the spiritual stuff. We were talking about souls. We see Dave and I do this all the time, even off air, where we go all around and back again. And so with souls, you can believe this or not, but I truly believe that animals do have souls. And I've often said, I was going to say, what's that, Dave?
I said, I know that one for sure, 100%.
Oh, so do I. I was in tears, actually. I'm not a crier when I watched your TikTok that you shared, because it really was that touching. But I was going to say that when I talk about our own paranormal experience, and I always say I wouldn't wish it on a blade of grass, even though I'm no better than a blade of grass, because we really are all a part of each other, everything right down to a grain of sand. Yeah. Right. But we all have some type of energy, or, energy can either be created or destroyed, transferred from one place to another, but we all really are a part of each other. But you brought up an interesting topic while we were off air. So we're going to talk about animals. And then didn't we say we were going to talk about souls with ghosts and, with ETs and things like that as well?
Yeah, we talk about all kinds of that stuff, but I wanted to bring up, I have wrote, if Lorilei doesn't mind, I will read it real quick.
Absolutely. Go ahead, Dave.
This is something that I had written a couple years ago for a magazine, but I forgot that I even did it, but it's called Animal Haunts. So I'll read this. It's not long, so I'll read this real quick.
That's what you were talking about. I'm glad you brought that up. Go ahead. Yes, you did.
And then when we do that, I'll just read the whole thing, and then Lorilei can just take it away from there with her opinions and her knowledge and what she knows and what she doesn't know and whatever she wants to say. How's that? So, you ready?
I'm ready.
So, some people have asked me throughout the years if an animal can haunt a house. My answer is always contingent on what they mean by haunted. If by haunted you mean that they are somehow stuck, confined, or don't realize they have passed, then in my experience, no. The journey of the soul of an animal is a bit different than a human. Animal souls seem to know precisely where they are going and how to get there, whether their earthly life is over. Animals stay quite connected to the other side during their physical existence. They can see and hear things that we don't. Much like human souls, though, they can have a strong emotional bond to a particular place or person that they spent a lot of time with, thus visiting and wanting attention from whoever may be visiting that domain once called their own. In some instances, the animal can come back to help collect a soul who hasn't completely crossed over for whatever reason. They do this out of unconditional love, and if it's agreed upon, it will be of assistance to the soul in question. It is entirely comprehensible that you may then encounter a ghost animal in a particular location, or you may encounter an animal that simply loves the memory of an area or situation. Not all ghost animals are intelligent hauntings. They also can be residual haunts as well. There may have been a particularly strong emotion that an animal had or situation that happened that was emotionally strong enough to imprint an energy signature that may be picked up by cameras or EVP. All in all, communicating with an animal in spirit does take a little bit of practice, as animals tend to talk through our senses. Pay attention to the smells and the thoughts and the feelings you experience. You may just have an animal from the past wanting to say hello.
I
So
love that. Oh, go ahead.
thank you. So that was my little thing, because people, they wanted me to write an article on animals as ghosts, because there was in the magazine there was a lot of paranormal people saying how these animals were stuck in this house for like 200 years and all kinds of crazy.
No, and I agree 100% with everything you've written. That was very well written, I thought. So great
Thank you.
job. But no, I agree with you. And of course, I'm just thinking of Debbie Schmoley, and she goes, hi everyone. Hi, Laura. Hi, David. Because how many times have I told this story, Debbie? But I'm going to tell it again. I know I don't think animals can be stuck either. Because Debbie and I, this is quite a few years ago, we're talking, and we were on, I think it was Skype, right, Debbie? And she was in her bedroom at the time, and my dog's laying on the cord, sorry. And she's laughing now because she knows what I'm going to say. And she was laying up against the pillows, and we were talking face to face, and I went, did you have a cat that used to like sit on the pillow next to you? And I remember she said, well, yeah, that was my cat Boo, and she passed away about a year ago. Facebook Messenger video chat. There you go. And I said, well, you're not going to believe this, but your cat is there right now. I can see your cat on the monitor. Your cat is grooming itself. It just flicked its tail. It just looked at you, and she's going, take a picture, take a picture. And Robin's going, loving this show. I'm so glad that you are, Robin. Don't forget, we got to do our readings tonight, guys. So remind us if you got questions or whatever. So we don't forget our predictable reading that we do sometime during this 2 hours. And tonight we're going to do 2 readings because we missed last week. We got so engrossed in the conversation. Back to Debbie. So Debbie goes, Lord, take a picture, take a picture. So I'm taking these pictures, and I can't see it too clearly, but Debbie had me send them to her. She still has them, and she believes her other cat, please forgive me, you're going to say the name Debbie, and I'm going to remember. She believes the other cat that she has that had been also crossed the Rainbow Bridge, if you will, is behind Boo in some of the pictures. So 2 of them were caught. Now, are they stuck? No. I think they're there. Mocha, thank you. And I should remember that because my youngest son had a beloved cat named Mocha. I will remember that. So I think they were there. They were giving you some comfort. That you probably one of their favorite spots to lay. And I truly believe, and you will hear depending on who you're connecting with, who you talk to, and we all have different belief systems. You got to take what resonates with you and leave the rest, okay? But I truly believe that we can visit from the other side, whether we're human or we are animals. And I think that when we're in times of need of comfort, or maybe they just want to be close and give us some of their energy from the other side. I also, let me add one thing, Dave. I was just going to say the other thing I want to say is when we pass, human, animal, whatever, a lot of times we hang around for a while to make sure all our loved ones are going to be okay. Go ahead, Dave.
Yep. Yeah, and she's absolutely correct. Animals do that as well. Sometimes an animal doesn't go over right away. Sometimes they will sit in the house for a minute. Like I had stated in that article, animals can perform as death doulas. They can also, they are also like rescue mediums in a way. And when an animal, like I said before, there are many animals on the other side who you might not even know, or like, let's do it this way. The first dog we ever had, her name was Angel. I just realized that. She was a poodle and she hated my guts. She over and over. There's probably a reason behind it. But no, I say if I pass and I wasn't me, and I just pass and I'm kind of stuck in between because of the fact I'm like, I don't want to go because I learned all this stuff that's going to happen to me. And now I don't want to go. Angel may step in and be like, no, David. Well, they won't actually say that, but
That's all religious dogma that you believe. It's okay. Come with me. I'm going to take you
yeah,
home.
pretty much. And that's how they would do it. And you would be able to understand that animal because on the other side, we don't really use words. That's such a misconception. You can use words back and forth if you're in certain predicaments, certain dimensions, whatever we need. But in your natural state, everything is by thought and it's rapid fire. So Lorilei could be on one end of the universe after her life, and I could be on the other one, and I could just think about being someplace at the same time, like maybe, oh yeah, we should meet in front of that waterfall, whatever. And she would just hear that and go, oh yeah, I know where that waterfall is. And then there would just show up and they're like, hey, so what's up? So it's
Yeah.
it's very cool. So I don't know why people always leave that kind of stuff out. We're not always, animals aren't always in their animal form either, which is really cool. Animals come in different forms. A lot of times in paranormal hauntings, if you for people in the paranormal listening, and you're not mediums or anything, if you go into a house and you think that you saw an animal or there was a ghost animal or something like that, pay attention to that because that animal's not stuck. The animal's either visiting or the animal knows you're there and it's like, I'm fulfilling a dream, pretty much. Ask ask that animal questions like you would ask a person. The only difference is you'll probably not get a direct answer of words in your head like a spirit would say. You most likely will get really strong feelings or really strong emotions. Maybe a bunch of pictures will flash in your head to say what that animal is. I've known that there have been quite a few cats that I've heard that are always in haunted houses, not in spirit form.
In this house, when we moved in here, and both my boys obviously have abilities. Usually we find this runs, everybody has these abilities anyways. We all have abilities. But my boys, especially my eldest, uses them. And he walked in the house, this place we've been for almost 3.5 years. When we first moved in, he goes, Mom, you got a little black kitten around here, right? And I'm going to trust him. I mean, I believe he's been around here. But another story I want to tell that I'm going to read Janie and Debbie's comments is that when my son Justin's kitty, he had got her for his birthday. This is years ago. And her name was Mocha. And I'd never seen a human being and a animal so bonded. Now, this is my son with severe autism. And he would maybe go with his dad when it was time to go for a couple days over the weekend or whatever. And that cat Mocha would sit on his bed. And you'd hear them. And my son doesn't speak a lot, but he does speak. But you'd hear him say Mocha, and you'd hear the cat say meow, 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 whatever, right? I don't know if they're communicating or what. And Mocha passed very suddenly of a very rare thing. It's called a saddle thrombus. It was a blood clot that goes in the big vessels kind of coming from your heart into the cat's legs, and they're in a lot of pain, and they can't fix it. And I remember when she passed, and my son he actually lost 70 pounds. He's a big boy, but he lost 70 pounds over this cat. He grieved for months. But I remember the night when this happened, and it broke my heart because there's one of these things you want to be wrong about. She couldn't use her back legs. I looked it up super quick and I knew exactly what it was. So I had to tell him, you're going to have to say goodbye to her. And I had to bring her in. And anyways, we talked about it as best as we could for him to be able to understand. But that night, our bedroom used to be in the basement in the previous home. And him and I were talking, and we were walking into my bedroom, and as we opened the door, we felt something brush past our legs, and we heard Mocha meow at us. And I can also tell you that for many nights, because I still tuck my son in, with no disrespect, he's like between a 5 to 7 year old. He's actually 25, but he still plays with toys and believes in Santa and the Easter Bunny and what have you. And I do love that about him. And she would plop on his bed right where she used to be when I would tuck him in every night, and you would literally feel the plop and you would see a bit of an indentation there. But I think she would visit when he needed her to help with the healing and grieving process for him. So I believe that animals do that. Did you want to say something, Dave? Because I was going to read the comments too.
Go ahead, read that comment.
Well, let's read Debbie's first. She said, I have seen, heard, and felt her cat, she said, many times. I even have my neighbor's 2 Yorkies that pass that come visit me. Now, Janie says, Marianne, the ghost whisperer, and Janie's introduced me to her. I've watched her show. She's live, I think, unless she's changed it, right, Jane, on Wednesday mornings. I think it's 10 a.m. Eastern on Facebook. So, and she is the lady, the TV show, The Ghost Whisperer, was actually written about and put out as a series. So Marianne the Ghost Whisperer can see and communicate with the earthbound spirits and cross them into the light, including animals. She said the spirits have always go into the light except I think what she's trying to say is she said that all the spirits she's seen always go into the light except one snake. She said she had to make the light under the snake so that he dropped into the light. That's really interesting. That is really interesting.
It is
For
interesting.
whatever reason.
Yeah, it is interesting. I find, and I'm not doubting it at all, but I'm saying what I do find interesting is why an animal would need help crossing over.
I don't know.
But
maybe he carried some fears. Maybe he had a fear.
Every animal on this planet, so I do not know. I mean,
but maybe he had some fears. Maybe he had. You don't know, right? Like, no, he's not going to carry human experiences.
I would think a reason would be like if I had to come up with a reason, if I had to theorize it, this would be my theory of why, like that snake in particular would, because that snake, just because it's a snake, animals that are in the same species can also be on different levels too. So you'll see cats and dogs that are going to be pets, but you'll also see cats and dogs in the wild. So if it's a pet and it's been named, it's probably up an evolutionary scale. So this snake might have been up an evolutionary scale as well. So I think that the snake would have had an attachment to life for whatever reason.
Yeah.
Like maybe he thought, I love the owners, or I just had babies, or the snake, that's exactly what I was just saying. Or they could have been wanting to wait for some reason, which it would be good for someone like Marianne to do, to say, there's no sense in you waiting here. Go enjoy. Go back home. Go enjoy.
So for people listening, Debbie Schmoley in the comments said the snake could have been waiting for its partner or a human too. And while I'm saying that very quickly, I've had so many people say to me, oh my gosh, I missed the show live. I've missed it. Don't ever worry. There is always a copy of every one of our shows on the network, whether it's on YouTube, Facebook, and we are carried anywhere where podcasts and talk radio are carried. You could think of some obscure little app and you will find our network on it. We are carried everywhere, so you can always hear a repeat of the show. So I wanted to add that, Dave.
Yes, that's absolutely true. And just so everybody knows too, every animal that's on here, even like if Zach Man in the desert in Arizona sees a scorpion, that scorpion's supposed to be here, which is so odd. You wouldn't think that. It was supposed to be here.
I got a question for you. I have been asking this. I'd love to hear people's theories on it. And I do know the purpose of these, but why the heck do yellow jackets exist? Because I'm telling you, they made our life a living hell. I know why bees are here. I know why wasps are. I know whatever. Why? There you go, Debbie. Even better one. Why are mosquitoes here?
I know why mosquitoes are here. I know. I'll answer that in a minute.
You can answer either one of them.
Jackets, I don't know. I mean, every animal does have a purpose. Yellow jackets, I know yellow jackets can just be mean little buggers.
They are. We had an infestation so bad.
They're incarnations of evil people.
Oh, there you go. That's what Debbie says. Spill it. What's the reason for mosquitoes?
Mosquitoes are here for the circle of life, the food chain. They're basically, their number one performance in this world is to be food. But There are those who take something on, because the mosquitoes that would take on malaria weren't here just to be food. They were also here to spread that for whatever reason it needed to be spread. So some of the insects we've seen, and I know some of this from my guides, from being over there, the knowledge they gave me, and from shamanism when I do a lot of journeying and I talk to animals that way. Um, every mosquitoes are here for a purpose. We literally have to have those mosquitoes. If we didn't have those mosquitoes, there are a ton of other animals that
Me
would have
too,
gone
Dave.
extinct. But I still don't like them either. They're gross.
Okay, so Zach says, I wouldn't mind scorpions if they didn't attack unprovoked. I will let spiders live, though. Yeah, spiders are good
Oh,
things.
I do too. I let spiders live all the time. Unless, well, here I had a black widow in my sink one time, and I couldn't get her out, so I had to put her down the drain. I didn't mean to.
Well, yeah. Well, Debbie said, they like to think I'm food. I hear you. They love me too.
Well,
I wanted to add something that you brought
yeah.
up. It was a show on the Angel Rock quite a few months ago, but it just came to me, Dave. You were talking about when you're driving along the highway and you happen to see an animal that very unfortunately lost its life to a vehicle or something. You were talking about that you name them in the honor of animals being named. Do you want to share that a little bit? Would you
Oh,
mind?
it was the I had the squirrel attacked, is when you were talking about the squirrel who committed suicide in front of my car. It pissed me
Mm,
off too. I'm like, damn it, squirrel. Um, when I go by, um, it is nice if you want to name the animal, because once you name something, that shows love. It's a type of love when you give that label.
Didn't you say it's a highest honor for an
It's
animal,
a
though,
great
to take the
honor for
name?
the animal. They and I'll tell you about the squirrel in a minute. But when I go by dead animals now on the road, I used to get so upset. And I sat there one time as my guides. I'm like, this is going to be very difficult for me, because there's a lot of them around here in North Carolina, a lot of this. And I said, I get upset when I see them smashed on the road. He said, why? They're already over here. You should be happy for them. And
Mhm,
I said, well, instead of saying I'm sorry, what could I say? And they're like, tell them thank you for their service,
mhm.
which is, I think, is a beautiful thing. And that's true. Any animal, whether it was with a person or not, even one that just in the middle of the woods, that deer ran out and hit a car, thank them for their service, because that one sacrifice that that deer made affected the driver of the car, affected a whole lot of things. Everything has a ripple effect to it. So I believe that that happens, as far as like, we don't have to say awe all the time. The animal usually, I know this, the animal usually goes. And the reason I know is, I'll tell the real quick funny story. Years and years ago, when I first came out of the coma, when I first got my driver's license back, I was driving to go have something checked in my car, and a literal squirrel just ran out in front of my car. This was within the first year I came out. And I ran it over, and I looked in my rearview mirror, and it was just flopping all over. I had to pull over and cry for like 20 minutes. I was
Oh,
so distraught. And then after I got back from the place, I was still distraught, and I was driving up to the mountains by me, Crowder's Mountain, and I was telling them, Dad, do you remember that, Debbie? I think Debbie saw the video. I was very upset, but the squirrel, they
I
said,
remember it too.
this girl wanted to thank me for that, because of the fact, just the fact that he said his entire life, the one time he ran out and had that with a human, had that kind of interaction with a human, it touched me so hard, and it touched the squirrel too. He was like, thank you for showing me that love, because there was nobody on that planet who showed me love while I was here, because I was just a squirrel in the woods. So the squirrel was really
I
quite
remember
thankful
that
for it.
now.
The reason how I know that this the dialogue was true, because after I asked, I always ask for a sign or something. I got up to the mountain. I went to pull out my laptop thing to make a video of it, and a huge deer just walked right there and just stood there, not scared, not nothing. And this was a trail that was traveled by a lot of people. So yeah, that was Debbie says she remembers when I made that video. But it's
Mhm.
true. Animals are quite thankful for us for doing things. And that's why and ghost animals are too. Sometimes if you're in a house, or your house has ghost animals around it, they're not there to scare you or haunt you. They're there to say hello or maybe thank you or just want your attention for some reason.
I've seen them act as almost like the welcoming committee and
Oh yeah.
spirit, like, and they take that job very seriously, and they're a big part of the experience. Like, say it's especially a well-known place. I've never really heard, and please feel free to share if you have, of anybody having this horrific experience with an animal that's in spirit form. Have you, Dave, or anybody else?
Mean one that was bothered me, you mean?
Or was evil, or was like they had horrific things happen. I've never heard of
I
that
have
with an
never
animal.
had in my life, in this life or any other
Yeah.
lives that I can remember.
No, but I don't think I've ever heard, like you said, you'll hear about animals that are in paranormal, investigations they'll come across in spirit form. But that's one thing I have to say.
It
I
could
don't
be
think I've ever heard
misinterpreted.
anything negative.
Yeah, it could be misinterpreted too, because there might be, if there's a paranormal group, especially if they're a young group and they've only been to a few places and everything's, I want to be scared, I want to see a ghost.
Yeah, well then maybe, yeah.
Yeah,
They'll
they
hit
might they
or
might
something.
see a ghost animal and right away put it out there. The ghost animal tried to get us. He was making noises and all that stuff. Well, he's not trying to get you. He made a noise. He's just
Yeah.
acknowledging he's there.
You
Get
wanted to be scared. He complied.
Yeah, exactly. So you just wanted to be there. I love when people do that. It makes me laugh. But there's quite a few animals that come back here in spirit all the time. I see them they run around my house all the time. And how I know it's them, and you guys can gauge this too for yourselves. If you see little shadows running, if you see something at the corner of your eye, like a shadow or something, and it goes by your feet or something like that, that 9 times out of 10 is an animal. The only time, and you're going to laugh at this, Lorilei, I could have swore there was something in my house. I kept seeing it run past my feet for days. I,
Mhm.
I was like, oh my God, there was like some little ghost in my house. It wasn't a rat from outside. A little rat got in from outside. He was black, and my cat got it overnight. That's the only reason I knew, because I walked into my kitchen. I'm like, you're dead now. but I was seeing a live mouse, which was totally throwing me off. I'm like, wait, what? But that was pretty funny.
Okay, so I have a funny story.
Yeah.
Some people have heard this story before, but I also believe we can have animal guides. I have a couple decks actually here. Remember, guys, we've got about 40 minutes or so left. You guys want to ask a question or anything? Like I said, we're happy to do a reading for you. We just pick whatever lights up. But so I suggest, if this resonates again with anybody hearing this, pay attention around you, things that show up with a lot of frequency, whether it's numbers, when you're looking at the clock, it could be feathers showing up out of nowhere. It could be anything. Okay. So 3 summers ago, I love to create and make things when I'm not doing all the other stuff I do. So I'd made this beautiful little crystal fireplace that could sit on a tabletop. And it even went back to, you had to make the fuel sources out of old pop cans or soda cans, and braided rope at the inside, and you used olive oil as the fuel, because they said that's what Jesus used back in the day. And I kept thinking when I was reading this, well, how do you know that? Were you there? But anyways, it worked beautifully. So I had it lit. It's about 2 in the morning. My backyard is fenced. It's very small. And I'm playing on my phone. And all of a sudden, something licks my left foot, my baby toe. It's at 2 in the morning. I'm going, "Aw, isn't that sweet? Emmy that's my dog's name." And I went, "Oh, Emmy's not outside." I looked down, little baby skunk. And I launched myself out of that chair. And I have a bad back. I don't know how I did it. And I jumped. And it wasn't that I was afraid of the skunk. I just didn't want to get sprayed. Right. So I'm thinking, like, where the heck did you come from? And he just scooted his chubby little butt and went under the fence, and away he was gone. Wouldn't you know, a week later, Dell and I are in the front yard. It's nighttime. We're enjoying the night air. The sun's gone down. He goes inside, and I'm in townhouses. So there's one on the left to me, and then there's an open space.
Mhm.
That little monkey was on the corner. It was like he was waiting for Dell to go inside, and he came booting right up to me, right in front of me, right at the bottom of the steps. He was literally like this far away, and I'm plastered up in the doorway again because I don't want to get sprayed. And I'm going, okay, dude, you're not supposed to be here. Dude, on your way, on your way. So I kept thinking, why is this little guy keep coming up to me? Why is he showing up? So I looked up the spiritual significance of skunks, and it was very relevant to what was going on in my life. And I do believe that that's why he was showing up, that it was something I needed to take a look at, and he was the messenger.
Yeah. I know people have asked me too, how do the animals know to show up as signs and all that other stuff? And I can answer that. So like, because if people are wondering, well, how did that skunk know to go by Lorilei and that she would read that book and that all those things? Things are pretty orchestrated. Anytime we speak in our head to and address the other side with the intention of knowledge or intention of anything, it goes to the right being. So if Lorilei in her mind was trying to learn something from something, it might get over there and they're like, oh, skunk. You should tell her skunk. They have this thing they know about skunks, and then that animal can get another animal to do that. It's kind of like when we, if you find pennies on the road that you're like, how did that penny possibly get in here? A spirit can drop that penny, and it's done by moving you into the dimension, a dimension where that penny actually is lying. So they're not actually taking a penny and picking it up with their little ghost hands and dropping it on the floor because one, you can't because you have no physical body. So all they do is get you to shift to a dimension where there is a penny lying there on the ground, and then you see it.
But they don't make us shift. Like we have free will, our higher self to say, no, I'm not going.
Yeah, they got us to shift. Your soul knows if you need to see that penny, it just will go to the path. If you go through life with the path of least resistance, it's your best bet. It's always your best
That's
bet.
what I always say to people. And I guess as the older I get, it made a lot more sense that when life is really difficult, nothing seems to go right. Usually I kind of like to look at it and take it as a sign from the universe that maybe I'm going in the wrong direction, or anybody else that life is like that, like nothing ever works out, everything's crappy, everything's awful, whatever. To really take a look at life, maybe you're not doing what you're meant to be doing or on the right path, because it seems as we sort of, it's almost like being in a canoe paddling upstream, right? But even if we just stop and pause, say you're in a current, the canoe is eventually going to turn. But as we start to head to what we're here for, because we all are here, we're not here by accident, we're here for a reason. It's like life just all sorts, not always, it's not, sunshine and roses and unicorn poop. I'm not saying that, but life seems to go a lot more smoothly, I believe, when we're on the right path.
It does. I like Sandra's comment. Sandra Sharp commented, I have a ghost cat that jumps up on the bed when my living cats aren't in the room. I will believe every cat ghost story. I don't even put context behind it, just because of the fact Sandra Sharp, also experienced that quite a lot of times. And to somebody, if somebody wasn't a medium or wasn't, that it'd probably freak them out. But I have sat on my bed and I've had a cat or something press his paws, or like it's like I can feel next to me that someone's kneading my bed. You know how cats knead, and I'll look over thinking it's one of my cats, and my cats are nowhere to be found. So I love when that happens, and I know my cats visit me all the time.
Okay, this is Robin. How about I read the question? It says, here's a question. When we die and we go to the light, do we automatically go into a queue or lineup to come back to Earth again, as in reincarnation? Nope.
Nope.
Want to answer that, Dave, and I'll add?
Yeah. No. Some souls spend a lot of times in between lives because they need to rest, because they took on a lot.
There is no time on the other side, by the way.
I will say one thing, though. And I'm going to say it because I want to be completely honest with you, especially since you do paranormal things. If a spirit sometimes has done terrible things or just not do it, sometimes they can go right from death right back into this earth without without going through any reviews or stuff. That is why it's important for so many to go through a life review. If you don't know what you've done, you just repeat it. So you will see people going, oh my God, I've been repeating the same life over and over. Because you're not learning from it. So they keep popping you back in. But there isn't like a cue for that. Basically, you go back, you're going to see whatever it is that you need to see and feel and be, and your friends and your animals and all this other stuff. Then it
Can I
feels,
share something, Dave? I was going to say, and it made sense to me. So if there really is no time on the other side, and we are everlasting, eternal beings, we never really die, we go on forever. Okay. And you look at it, and Dave can probably, I don't remember my near death experience being a small 2.5-year-old, but Dave remembers as an adult. But what I'm trying to say is that because there is no time, right? Like it can seem like coming here, even though we spend some people 80 years, 100 years, sometimes it's only much shorter, unfortunately. But what I'm trying to say is that it's like going on a 2-week vacation. Not that it's a vacation, but to us on the other side, and there is no time. I can tell you there have been people that I've seen accounts of that have had a near-death experience for 5 minutes, yet they spent hours over on the other side, it seemed like, and no time passed at all.
yeah,
So
my near death was I was very quick death. I think what happened with me though, because I was also then in a coma for almost 2 months. So it's hard to move in and out. I agree with you on that, Lorilei.
mhm.
So there's one other thing I wanted to say to that, how to paranormal,
To Robin.
to Robin. When we come back in, how we get here is by going within. We don't travel outside someplace and go through something. Our focus goes back to here, and we begin our strong focus on
Right.
the body, the life, everything. We just keep the focus on it. And as you're focusing, like I said, even in real life, it has to mirror where you are. So we learn how to focus then. And then once we're here, then we kind of forget everything and other people define us. And then we get stuck.
I
If you're,
do want to add something, then we'll read Debbie's question because she has some
yes,
questions.
yes,
But what I
please.
will say, Robin, is that your loved ones can always hear you. You think of them and they can be there. I've had many a person that's passed that has come through, and usually what's really interesting, at least in my own experience, I've heard of other mediums as well, they usually present how they felt the most beautiful or attractive in their lifetime. Like I do, I usually see them, even somebody that say was 90 years old, when they'll come back, not always, sometimes to me, if I can see them, because people don't always present visually, but they may appear how they were say in their last picture, but then you see them healthy and whole and no pain, and they're just the picture of when they felt the most attractive. Like for example, somebody I was talking to had never even seen a picture of their parent, and their parent showed themselves to me, and we were talking about their parents, and the person was explaining to me that, yeah, that is actually what they look like. I said, yeah, but the way they're showing themselves to me is their hair was longer, because they had sent me pictures. That's what you're seeing. I said, yeah, but their hair was longer. And that was when apparently they felt the most attractive and whatever. And it doesn't always have to be that way. We have free will, but that's been my experience. What about you, Dave?
With just talking to people, dead people like that?
Yeah, like, don't you find if you do see them that they'll sometimes present like the way they felt best, especially if they were very ill when they left or very elderly or
Usually, if you see if it's a ghost you caught on film or a ghost
oh
in,
no, I'm talking about when you're doing like a mediumship reading or something.
oh yeah, when you're doing that, those are there's concept of time for those. Yes, what Lorilei is saying is correct. Some spirits will show me what they looked like at the time of passing.
Hmm.
And then while I'm talking, they will show me a different version of themselves, a better version that they're more comfortable with. The only reason sometimes they come into me when they're old is they know, and they understand that that's how I relate to my validation that I want. I will always want to know, how old were you when you passed? So they will usually show me how old they were in the beginning, how they passed, and then it can change. And Lorilai's right. Most people, not all, most prefer to, if they take on a persona, because that's not even necessary. But if you take on a etheric persona, you can look however you want to look. Or when they appear, like Laura Lee says, sometimes really old people will come to me as young people, but then sometimes I'll see a person young and I'll have to ask, is this you and you're young? And they'll be like, there was no old.
Yeah, because someone really young can also present at a different age too. And they don't always present themselves. That was the biggest shock for me when I started working with mediumship. It was like going to a different country every time I connect with someone, because sometimes you'll hear and then they might send pictures or they might send symbols. Sometimes it's a feeling. Like they use all of our senses, right, to be able to get the message across. And David's been doing it longer than I have. Like David is incredible as a medium. He is, and I'm going to give you props, Dave, because you are. And but like I said, everybody experiences it differently. But the thing is, I want to make this clear. I truly believe we all have these gifts. We can all communicate with our loved ones. Some of the easiest ways is when you go to bed at night, especially if you're grieving. To go to bed at night, we are open. When we fall asleep, go to bed with that question in your mind, or set the intention that you want to meet up with your loved one in your dreams. And, that's where you can have the conversations. If you're not sure, keep a pen and paper by your bedside, jot some notes down before your feet touch the floor. And, it may not happen right away, like that night, but keep setting the intention, because that's the easiest I find for our loved ones to visit, especially while we're grieving. Don't you, Dave?
Yes, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Oh God, there's a lot of good questions.
I know we're not getting to readings tonight, guys, because you guys have asked so many good questions. So
Okay,
shall we do Debbie's and then we'll do Jane's, because Jane's is a really good one. Good one too. You want me to read Debbie's, or you want to read?
Read Debbie's.
Okay, so Debbie says, I have a question kind of off topic. Nothing's off topic here. Can a human who passes become a walk-in? I know angels can do walk-ins, but can humans?
Well, this is my opinion. I'm going to tell you this, my opinion from what I know and from my experiences and everything else. One, an angel will literally, if they need to be here for a moment, they can very, 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 very quickly take on a human form. And it's not a human that's existing right now. It's just a look. It's very random. It's very AI, just toss to the computer. They'll do what they need to do and they take off. A walk-in is another soul. So yeah, any one of us could experience being a walk-in at some point if we wanted to, I guess. Walk-in is a whole nother
We could do a whole show on it. We kind of touched a bit on it.
But basically a walk-in is basically one soul leaves young or something and doesn't want to come back, but that soul needs to be here because for what's ever happening with the parents or situations, there just might be something that needs to be taken care of. And if that soul in question cannot do it, it can agree with another soul to come into the body. But when that soul does that, that soul also takes on most of the memories of the soul who stayed over. Got to keep in mind, guys, when you're talking and answering these questions, and it's the hardest thing to do, when you can't see it as a human thing, because it's not. It is very different from being a human. We don't, there isn't one human standing here waiting to jump in another human's body. It's not how that goes. It's exchanges of energies and everything else. That's what I know so far.
No, I agree. We have to take the human glasses off, if you will.
Yeah.
Because we aren't really who we really are in soul form either.
We are not.
And so you have to, and we're looking at it from a human perspective, because sometimes it makes it easier to understand, because some of this can get quite complicated. That's usually when our guides will jump in and say, no, I can't answer that simply. Or no, that's not quite, you wouldn't quite understand if I tried to explain, or you're not meant to know, you don't need to know this right now, or whatever it may be. Right?
Yeah, I've told you that story before. I used to ask out of my NDE, my connection was like so strong the year after. It was like scary strong. And I would ask questions, and one of my guides would go, "Does it matter?" And he said that all the time. It's almost snarky. And one time I was listening, he said, "Does it matter?" And I said, "Yes, I need to know." And within the next couple of days, I was bombarded with dreams and it's synchronicities and all this other stuff. And I pretty much, he's like, "Do you get it now?" I'm like, "No, I don't get it at all." He's like, "There you go. You don't need to. It's not, it's, you don't have to. You just do your life." If information from guides is usually on a need to know basis.
Mm-hmm.
That's how I kind of feel it is.
No, I think you're right. And you know what? I think Spirit's given me some sayings that I say all the time in real life and not real life, or on air, not real life. But and one of them is, if it doesn't make any difference 10 years from now, let alone 10 minutes from now, let it go. Pick your battles.
Yeah.
But the other one is, what we perceive becomes what we believe, and it becomes our reality. And they do give us things like that to try and help us understand or see things or whatever it may be, right? So when you say it's a need to know basis, it is, because there are things that we're meant to know, or maybe we're not meant to know them in the time maybe that we're asking. Or like I said, is it going to make any difference 10 minutes from now, let alone 10 years from now? Then maybe you're not meant to know. Maybe let it go.
Some stuff that you might learn might not be good for you to know because it might affect everything you came here to
Yeah.
do and just kind of wreck it. I loved, I read
Jane,
this question. Do you want to answer first or you want me to? I don't care.
you go ahead, you read it, and then I'll answer.
I'll read it, you answer it, then I'll give you my 2 cents.
Absolutely.
Jane E. Walker. Jane's asks, "Hi, Jane. Okay, if someone wants to communicate with a deceased loved one and the loved one has already reincarnated into someone else, can you communicate with the original loved one?" Laura.
Yeah. Yes. And the reason why I believe this, we got to take off our human glasses for this one. It's complicated. And it's not like our soul is splitting into a million little splinters and pieces. But believe it or not, and this took me the longest time to understand this, past, present, and future is happening all at the same time. So believe it or not, many things that we refer to as a past life are actually happening at the same time. So can we be, it's kind of like what Dave was touching on before, we can be in more than one place at the same time. But I believe that there's a core piece of our soul that always resides, if you will, in the home position. That made the most sense to me. So I will tell you that there have been times where I have connected with people that are still living in a mediumship reading, because our higher self, right? That soul piece. So yes, I do believe that we can still connect. And I have had and seen people that do this as well, that'll say, well, they've reincarnated into another lifetime, yet they can still connect with the essential soul being of who that soul is. So that's my answer in a nutshell. What's yours, Dave?
Yes. I'm going to explain something. Jane E., this is your soul on the other side. This little bit of water left in there. At some point, you decided to go have a life. So part of you came out.
Oh, you
That's it.
did a great job. That's perfect. Yeah.
That came out. The rest of you is still there. It's only a small part of your energy is here. Now, this
There.
energy probably
Beautiful. Beautiful.
your energy isn't as quite all over the place now because part of you is gone doing something. And or another way you can look at it is on the other side, you fell asleep under a tree and you go within and you focus, and then that dream you have is you being here. So you're here doing the dream, but the whole of you really is still going to be sitting under that tree. So whoever comes home, they'll be like, "Oh, where's David?" "Oh, he's under that tree." "Oh, okay." So we can speak. I can still speak. If you're here, I can still speak to the rest of this that also knows Jane. Okay. It knows the personality of Jane's still all in here. So that's what I'm connecting to. Yeah.
Okay, but you know what? That also makes sense. Jane says, thanks, guys. I get it. And I'll get to Debbie's comments too. But if you think about it, right, it kind of makes sense. Because I used to hear this all the time, past, present, and future is happening at the same time. There's no time. But to wrap your mind around it. But I love David's analogy with the water. Loved it because it makes so much sense, right?
That,
But it also makes sense when we have past life readings and we call it past lives. So if we're doing multiple lives at the same time, past, present, future, what have you, right? And then you'll see where people will be carrying an energy, say from, they'll call it a past life that no longer serves us in this lifetime. It makes sense why we would maybe, if we need to work with an individual that does that kind of work to clear that energy, because we don't need it in this particular little parcel of water, little drop of water where we are with our soul at this time. Maybe it's best serving us in that other lifetime that we refer to as a past life. It gets a little complicated. I'm sorry. Maybe you can explain it a little more clearly, Dave, but it made a lot of sense to me now. Why?
Yeah, that makes sense. What is Jane? If someone wants to communicate with a deceased loved one,
Well, that's the
oh,
same one. That's the same one. So Debbie said, one of my friends who just passed said he's going to come back as a walk-in. That's why I asked.
well,
So,
oh, here's the deal. I'll tell you this, honest to God's truth. Just because we said that in life
thank you. Mhm.
does not mean that that is what we're doing. Walk-ins are very rare.
Mhm.
Walk-ins happen when it needs to. We can't just go, oh, I'm going to go be a walk-in, so I come back to Earth and skip all the childhood part and just do this, because there are special souls, I should say, who would be a walk-in, because that soul would have to be, he might get into a body and that person had been totally abused, has done lots of bad things in his lifetime. Maybe the IRS is after him, all that stuff. But this walk-in's still going to take it on because he says, I need to be here for this. So I'll take on the rest of that. And it's basically taking on both, because a walk-in would be as if I had this cup of water and another cup of water here, and I poured a little bit of each one into another cup of water.
Well, Debbie
That,
said, no, he just said that after he passed. Well, it could possibly be. A lot of us have a little bit of an adjustment time, and depending on what we've gone through in the lifetime that we're going back home, if you will, because I do know those that take their own lives. So be careful with the S word here on YouTube. Um, as I understand it, it made some sense to me. We got to kind of remember who we are, if you will, on the other side, right? Because we have that amnesia. And then
yeah,
when we go over to the other side, we still retain some of that humanness and personality of who we were in this lifetime, right? But the
yeah.
thing is, we got to forget a lot of that humanness of who we are. And I've just with connecting with spirit, connecting with other people that have been on the other side for a bit, sometimes we got to go to a bit of healing. There's a whole bunch of things. Now, sometimes, well, I've yet to see a person, I can't say I've spoken to every person that's crossed over, but we do a life review, and there's no judgment with the life review. It's that and it was really cool how I've seen it explained sometimes is people feel like it's that scene in the Matrix where you walk in and there's like a gazillion TV screens and it's playing a certain aspect of your life and you see it, but you get to experience the emotions of maybe what your actions were that another person experienced. So when you've been really good to another human being, you get to experience what they felt, but you also get to experience maybe when you've hurt someone or you've said something very unkind or done something unkind, but it's not meant with judgment. It's meant to ask yourself as a soul, what did you learn from this experience? It's neither good nor bad. What do you take away from it? What did you experience?
Yeah.
Right, Dave?
It's also, yeah, and it's also very risky to be a walk-in, because if you're a walk-in, you come in and you take on the karma of that person who is just here. Plus, you most likely will create your own karma there. I'm very skeptical when I've heard a couple people, there's like a TikTok-y thing or a YouTube. The guy just jumps on there and says, I'm a walk-in, and starts going on and on. I'm like, okay, hold on, cowboy. Because one, from what I know of, most walk-ins either aren't aware, or if they are aware, they usually aren't going to tell anybody, or it's not in the plan to tell anybody, or they have no idea they're a walk-in, because they come in and they have to come in here with the same exact amnesia that we had, that everybody else does. Nobody comes in here knowing anything. Even Jesus didn't come in here knowing for sure who he was, but he did recognize all the powers and the cool things and what he was here to do. But a walk-in for me, most walk-ins don't know. They have an idea, but it's kind of like when I've seen people too that goes, oh, they're a reincarnation of an angel and they run around and tell everybody. Okay, one, no. You wouldn't, why would you run around and if you ran around to tell everybody you're an angel, that would be vanity. That would be vain. An angel does not possess that. So
But it serves no purpose to
yeah,
do.
exactly. It literally serves no purpose for that. So I don't know. I mean, he might have been a walk-in. I will not doubt anybody because who am I to say what everybody else's experience is? But just from what I know personally, I do not believe that most walk-ins
I'm
would
going
come
to add
to this
something.
earth with the idea to tell everybody that they're a walk-in because it would also change things.
Okay, the thing I'm going to add, like Debbie, I'll read her comment and I wanted to add something. She said, I'm not that familiar with walk-ins, so it's kind of new to me. I was fascinated when he said he was preparing to become a walk-in again. I guess he must wait for the right soul. Okay, what I'm going to add, and again, I can't argue your experience in any way. You experienced it, and we have to take it for what you're saying. But what I want to say is, depending on how you receive this information, are you sure you were connecting with the energy of who was your friend? Because I do agree that walk-ins are very rare. And with what Dave has said, Dave and I have had that conversation many times for quite a few years off air, not just on air. And again, we don't know everything. We make that very clear to you guys. We are not experts. We are sharing with you what we have either gotten from our own guides or through our own experiences throughout our lifetime. So I always say just because I haven't experienced it doesn't mean it didn't exist. And Debbie said, yeah, I just don't know enough to say it could or couldn't happen. And yes, you're sure it was him.
The thing
Okay,
that
well,
the thing that throws me or puts me the thing about this gentleman that puts me to the spot where I can't get that aspect
question.
out of my mind would be that right there. I'm preparing to become a walk-in again. Like he said he was preparing to become a walk-in again. There is no walk-in job. There isn't one. I can tell you that from that one I know. There isn't a spirit that specializes in doing a walk-in. There isn't one. Because any spirit could be a walk-in. It doesn't matter. As long as they've had experience with past lives and they're a strong soul, they could do it. But I agree with what like Lorilei said before too. There's literally no purpose for that person to become a walk-in. And if there was, I don't think they would know it. I'm just very skeptical of it. But from what I know about walk-ins, and I've read a million books that I got back here on walk-ins, it's very rare, and they wouldn't come here and tell people they were a
Well, you
walk-in.
have to keep us updated on it, Debbie.
Yeah,
Let us know how that goes for you. And maybe it's something new for us to learn through your own experience. So we appreciate you sharing it. You guys have asked some great questions here. We've got like 5 minutes left here. So does anybody have a quick question, or do you want us just to maybe pull a card and do like a general reading? Because we could do that as well if you'd like us to do that. What do you think, Dave?
sure.
Should we do that? Unless somebody happens to post a question quickly. I'll grab one of my decks here. Gotta look and see. Ooh, I don't know. I'm on a Kyle Gray kick, and I guess it must be. Oh, Debbie does that. I don't think he meant it as a job more than he was finding out that the time and soul was right. You'll definitely let us know when you know. Perfect. Awesome.
The
I was
hard
going
thing
to say,
about walk-ins, though, walk-ins are probably harder to validate than life after death. I mean, there's really no validation for a walk-in unless this gentleman could describe a house he used to live in from a past life.
mm-hmm,
Then I would go, okay, I would believe you're a walk-in then.
mm-hmm.
Yeah, but it's hard to say.
I was going to say I'm on a Kyle Gray kick to transition to just a quicker topic very quickly. And I guess it must be meaning to see it, either that or it's the AI on Facebook because his posts keep coming up every day. He does have a free webinar coming up, I think next week too, guys. And I do really like his lives because the one thing that I really love that he says, and I mean this from the two of us as well, But because he has such a big public following with Hay House and stuff, he really is quick to remind people that he is no better than anybody else.
Which one? Kyle?
Should he be put on a pedestal? Not that I'm saying anybody's putting us on a pedestal, but I just love how he really brings it right down and simplifies things. And he says he works with angels. So anyways, I'm drawn to, I have 3 of his decks, and I'm
Who
drawn to
are you talking about?
Hmm?
Who you're talking about?
Kyle Gray.
Oh, I love Kyle Gray. Yeah.
Yeah. So do you want to pull a card? I'm going to pull from the Angel Guide deck. Hang on there. My son Justin's in here. He's popping in here. He's chomping at the bit. He knows what time mom's done. I'm going to tell you why. Because we saw this super strange light in the sky last night that was turning light. It was turning bright, and then it was changing colors, and it was flashing. It was doing all kinds of stuff. We have it on video. So he's going to let me know that what he thinks it is. That's why he wants to let me know. Robin says, we learn so much from each other. We do, especially if we're willing to hear one another and be open-minded.
Knowledge is power.
Okay, so we got like literally 3 minutes here. We got to sign off. You guys,
I pulled a card for the group, and it's so funny that this card came up because earlier I was talking about going within to be that and all that, you know, the who you are. And the card is solitude. It's a solitude card, which means going within because peace prevails. If you guys can stop looking at the outside world as affecting you and just go inside and connect there, you'll get all kinds of answers. That's where you get and talk to your loved ones. That's where when I'm talking to loved ones, I'm not going out there to talk to them. I'm literally bringing the other side in here. So
I'm gonna tell you guys. Oh, hi, Jesse. You said Judy. I'm going Debbie. I was just gonna say Debbie. I don't see Judy, but she said hi, Jesse. Debbie said hi to you. Thanks. He said thank you. Okay, so this is really short, sweet, and simple. And I do want to remind you guys, stay tuned. We've got the Outer Realms right after this with Michelle DeRoche, Amelia Pisano. They have a show Wednesday and Thursday nights. Stay tuned. They always have great guests, even if they do a show on their own. So you don't want to miss it. So really simple. If you have a question, you've been wondering whether or not you should do it. Yes, is the answer.
yes, go to pride.
I'm also hearing too, to believe in yourself, to trust within, to go within, to trust that you know yourself. I already said this. I guess this is just confirmation. To trust that you know yourself best. You do have the answers. It's to be able to quiet the mind for a few minutes, whether it's with deep breathing, to go to a safe space, maybe just before you're falling asleep, maybe just before you're fully awake. But the answer is yes. So Robin says, cheers, guys. See you later. Cheers to you. Thanks for bringing Chris through with you, Robin. So Dave, want to tell them where to find you quickly?
If anybody wants to find me on social media, that includes Instagram, Facebook, or TikTok. It's at Medium David Hanzel. If you want to book a reading with me or if you want to book a reading with me, the only place you can do it is my website. That's theywhispertome.com. I never private message people for readings. Also, I have a podcast called Mystic Stew. When they come out, they come out. I make a couple of them a month. You can go right ahead, Lorilei.
Okay. Debbie says, I wonder if yes is the answer to my question. Don't know. If it resonates with you and you feel like it's a yes, you take it for what it is. I always say that. Take what resonates, leave the rest.
Or you can get a hold of those cards, go within and look for that answer.
True. So if you ever want to get a hold of me to book a reading, I do healing sessions, I do mentoring, do Akashic Records, I do all kinds of stuff, Crystal Reiki. You can get a hold of me on Facebook.com/Angel Rock. Say you got a show idea, guest suggestion, maybe you got a question or a theme you want Dave and I to do. You can also get a hold of Dave to let him know too. You can also get a hold of me there on Facebook. I have 2 groups on Facebook, Paranormal University for all things paranormal, and the Angel Rocker Tribe for many of the spiritual things we talk about. And don't forget to tune in this Monday from 6 to 8 p.m. with the Angel Rock. It'll be back here on UPRN. I have no idea who my guest is this week. It may be just little old me. And you know what? I'm actually enjoying doing shows on my own. So we will see. I've had a few feelers out. Sorry, with, the nicer weather, people are kind of forgetting when we schedule things or things come up, and I'm okay with that. We just go with the flow. So we love you guys so much, right, Dave? Anything you want to add for a final word before we do our thing? See if we can get it at the same time.
Oh, thank you guys. But if you have ideas for the show, you can write to Lorilei on Facebook, or you can write to me at david@theywhispertome.com, and I will print up those questions, and me and Lorilei will talk about them. If we had an experience with them, we'll explain to you what we know.
Absolutely. Okay, you ready? One,
We'll
two.
try it again. 1, 2, 3. What's at the
foot of your bed? We did it at the same time.
We did. It was delayed. It wasn't us. It was this that was delayed. Ha!
So what do we do with that? We said when we did it at the same time.
I say our next show, we'll announce a winner and we'll give you guys a reading.
Yes, because we said if we could do it at the same time, that's what we would do. And it's the first time we've done it, guys. So
yeah.
Stay tuned. We'll let you know. If we forget, you guys will remind us next week. Okay. Love you all. We'll see you next week. I'll see you on Monday, and we'll see you both here on Thursday. Okay. Have a good one, guys.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.